So you got it all worked out, have you? Swiss watches are high end, are they? Rightio. Well, I'm about to show you they're actually not. See there. Swiss Norman Watch Co. Unadjusted. What's the top say up here? Up the other side there, right on the top. 1 jewel. That's right, 1 jewel. This, dear viewers, is a pin pellet watch. Back in the day, the people who become Timex used to make dollar watches. I don't know if it was Waterbury or I don't know. They went on to make a bunch of ones that were exported, plenty of which are still seen around England. Then England ended up making one called the Empire or something. The Waterbury one, or whoever it was that was a forerunner to Timex, they had tons of these things out there. And I was looking at them on eBay and I forget the damn name. You also got UMF Ruler of East Germany, good old communist days. And of course, plenty of Swiss watches that are actually just crap pin pellet watches. So everybody's got the idea they're good. That's because they're good now, and some brands are good. My father has a bunch of stuff. I found him my uncle's stuff after he was bankrupted, but not straight away, only after he died, and then my dad could dig into as much as he wanted. There's a lot of stuff owned by his parents and his grandparents who are all Swiss pin pellet watches. In fact, they're all Swiss except an Austrian pocket watch called Montfort, which is Austrian, as I just said. And that's extremely similar to this when you look in the back, as most of those watches were. Once that whoever it was become US Time Corporation, they changed their movements to look like 60s Timex movements. So they sort of become US Time Corporation and sort of went their own way a little bit. Making a sort of a junky movement that they tried to make a little bit better, but it looks extremely different from this. It really is like a different sort of a design in the way it's manufactured, which is seen in US Time Corporation watches, and Timex of the 60s and into the 70s too. But this one is very typical of just a miniaturized version of those cheap ones where you see your two main cogs in the back. Your top one there is connected to your spring underneath it, and a lot of very odd things. Now, your 1 jewel, I've got a spring bar here, your 1 jewel is that little one there. It's in the top of the balance. Now, under here, which I'll show in a video later, that one there, that holds the shaft there for the pin pellet. This one, and this one are all shafts for other cogs. These aren't on jewels, they're just bloody dimples and holes. It's kind of Timex style, but pre-Timex. So this is probably made in the 70s, which isn't pre-Timex, but this is your more original way of doing these cheap dollar watches, which is really what they become known in their early days, because the things were about $1 or $1.25 back in the days when there was a guy who aimed to make a watch that would cost a week's labourer's wage so that everybody could own a watch, and by hell he was successful when a lot of people thought he couldn't make it happen. These ain't terribly accurate. These can lose 30 seconds or a minute a day, or gain 30 seconds or a minute a day. But usually they're within about 30 seconds. Generally speaking, they lose or they gain 30 seconds a day. And it all depends. But if it's about a minute, it means you've got a pretty shit one. Usually, instead of having this piece here, this big circular bit of sheet metal, you should have a little, like an egg-shaped cog with a spring. What they do in these is they make a long one, and the entire bit of sheet metal becomes a spring, and you can see the little tooth that just comes in there. Now, if I don't knock my phone on its ass here, I'll show you how this works. There you go, that's how it works. Another dead giveaway, not only having no jewels, the one jewel you do have in the top of the balance wheel there is clear. The other way you can tell, and in not all watches, there's one case where the Russians started running out of money in the 90s making watches, so they changed to steel. But usually your little balance wheel, which has got your little hairspring on it down here, which is really truly your time regulator of it all, that should be brass. These are steel. Timex ones are steel. The Russians had brass until they ran out of money in the 90s, and then they made a few that were steel as well. But I'll see if I can kick it over, because I had it running before. But I've got another better video you'll see of it side on, of it working. But this one's a little bit of a grumpy bitch, and a lot of these, they didn't last any more than about 2 years and that. But yeah, you can see it there. You can see the whole show. Yeah, you can see the little pin palette there. I'll probably put the other video up regardless. Unfortunately, the flash is sort of not in the best position. Yeah. So anyway, just to prove to you all it is indeed Swiss made, here's another one. That's the back cover. And just to prove to you the cheapskates, a lot of the ones that my grandparents had were die cast cases. This is aluminium. So there you go. Swiss watches aren't all fancy after all.